He wasn't just a boxer. He wasn't just an athlete. He was a fighter in every sense of the word. They stripped his title. They mocked his faith. They called him a traitor. But Muhammad Ali never bowed down, and in the end, he became a legend whose name will echo for generations. This is the story of how a kid from Louisville rose from nothing, lost everything, and still became the most famous fighter who ever lived. Childhood and early spark, Cassius. Marcellus Clay Jr. was born in 1942 in Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville was a city divided by race, where segregation wasn't just culture, it was law. From the very beginning, he saw the walls that society put around him. Restaurants, schools, buses, even water fountains were split into white and colored. At 12 years old, one moment changed everything. His brand new bicycle was stolen. Furious, young Cassius stormed up to a police officer and vowed, "I'm going to whoop whoever stole my bike." That officer, Joe Martin, was also a boxing coach. He told him, "Before you try fighting, you better learn how." And so he did. Clay was raw, but he was fast, lightning fast. He wasn't the strongest, but he had a gift. He could float around opponents like no one else. And he could talk. Boy, could he talk. Even before he was a champion, he was already predicting victories, taunting opponents, and drawing crowds. By 18, he was on the U.S. Olympic team. In Rome, he shined, winning gold in the light heavyweight division. He returned home to celebration until reality struck. Back in Louisville, Olympic medals still around his neck, he was refused service at a restaurant because of the color of his skin. To Ali, that moment was as defining as any fight. The medal didn't make him equal. It didn't change America. According to legend, he threw it into the Ohio River. The rise in 1964, at 22 years old, Cassius Clay faced Sonny Liston. Liston was terrifying huge, brutal, a man with a criminal past and a fearsome reputation. The press said Clay had no chance. Vegas oddsmakers listed him as a 7-1 underdog. Sports writers mocked him, calling him a loudmouth clown. But Clay wasn't afraid. He danced, he shouted, he predicted, "I will float like a butterfly and sting like a bee." The fight shocked the world. Round after round, Clay's speed made Liston look slow and helpless. When Liston refused to come out for the 7th round, the world had a new champion. In the ring, Clay screamed, "I shook up the world." And he had. The next day, he announced he was a Muslim and changed his name to Muhammad Ali. The backlash was immediate. Reporters refused to call him Ali. Many fans turned away, but Ali stood tall. "I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be who I want." Vietnam and exile. Then came Vietnam. In 1967, Ali was drafted into the U.S. Army. He refused to go, saying, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. No Viet Cong ever called me the N-word." Those words sent shockwaves. The government came down hard. They stripped his title, banned him from boxing, and sentenced him to prison. For the next 3.5 years, Ali was trapped in legal battles, his career frozen in its prime. But Ali refused to bow. He spoke at colleges, inspiring a generation of young people who opposed the war. He became a symbol of resistance, not just for Black Americans, but for anyone who questioned authority. He once said, "Why should they ask me to put on a uniform and go 10,000 miles from home to drop bombs on brown people in Vietnam, while so-called Negro people in Louisville are treated like dogs?" Ali was risking everything, his freedom, his livelihood, even his safety, but he stood by his beliefs. The comeback in 1970, Ali finally returned to boxing. The anticipation was enormous. His first big test came in 1971, the fight of the century against Joe Frazier. Two undefeated champions, two different worlds colliding. Ali called himself the People's Champion. He mocked Frazier, calling him a tool of the establishment. The insults cut deep. The fight became more than boxing. It became cultural war. On fight night, Madison Square Garden was electric. The battle was brutal. Ali fought well, but in the 15th round, Frazier dropped him with a crushing left hook. Ali lost. The critics cheered. They said he was finished. But Ali refused to fade. The rumble in the jungle. In 1974, Ali traveled to Zaire to face George Foreman. Foreman was younger, stronger, undefeated. He had destroyed Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. No one thought Ali could survive. But Ali had a plan, the rope-a-dope. Round after round, Foreman pounded him against the ropes, throwing punches until his arms turned to lead. Ali leaned back, whispering, "Is that all you got, George?" The crowd of 60,000 chanted, "Ali Bomay! Ali, kill him!" And then in the 8th round, Ali exploded with a furious combination. Foreman collapsed. The impossible had happened. Ali was champion again. Thrilla in Manila. But the greatest war of all came in 1975, the Thrilla in Manila. Ali and Frazier met for the 3rd time. The fight was held in brutal heat, over 100 degrees inside the arena. Round after round, the 2 men tore into each other, neither giving an inch. By the 14th round, both were exhausted. Ali later said, "It was the closest thing to dying I have ever known." When Frazier's corner stopped the fight, Ali had won, but both men had paid the price. Global icon. By the late 1970s, Ali's body began to slow. He lost to Leon Spinks, then regained the title, becoming the first 3-time heavyweight champion in history. He fought Larry Holmes and Trevor Berbick in his final years, but the magic was fading. Yet outside the ring, his star only grew brighter. Ali became a global ambassador for peace. He visited Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, greeted by millions like a king. Children chanted his name. Leaders welcomed him as a symbol of hope. He wasn't just America's champion, he was the world's. Later years and legacy. In the 1980s, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. His speech slowed, his hands trembled, but his spirit remained unshaken. In 1996, the world watched as he lit the Olympic cauldron in Atlanta. His body trembled, but the moment brought tears to millions. It was not his speed or power that defined him. It was his courage. Ali's fists won him titles, but his principles won him eternal respect. The lesson. Muhammad Ali's story proves that greatness isn't about never falling. It's about standing tall when the world tries to knock you down. He fought not just for belts, but for justice, for dignity, for truth, ... And that's why, decades later, we still honor him as a legend. If this story inspired you, subscribe for more voices through time, true stories that remind us to fight for what matters.